Good morning, everyone. It's Amy Valdivia here, and I am part of the Divorce Literacy Podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Miss Allie Beckmann. Yay, my friend Allie. She is with Beckmann and Company, and let me tell you, the financial planner that gives us the broad spectrum. She takes care of individuals in transition. Of course, when it comes to partnering in the divorce world, what amazing partner we have here. Allie is here to share about her philosophy and how she gets to really take care of those that she serves. Welcome, Miss Allie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, this is going to be great. I'd love for you to share to the listeners, who's Allie? Who are you? How did you decide this was where you wanted to help? And what the journey is about up to now and moving forward.
Yeah, lots there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I am a financial planner and as far as how did I get here, I got here through a winding path. And I'll share a little bit about that, and then I think that will inform kind of why and how I work the way that I do now. So I actually spent 15 years as a theater artist. I was a performer, an actor, a musician, a director. I did a lot of facilitation. So that was a big part of my life for a long time. And then I was a yoga and meditation instructor for 6 years as well, had a business and did a lot of, holistic life coaching within that model. I transitioned to finance over COVID because of my own, life changes. Right. And really saw an opportunity for me to combine the skills that I had been developing prior, including communication, active listening, but also a lot of social emotional facilitation, behavioral coaching. I spent 6 years studying trauma-informed care and facilitation and working with people who were in those more vulnerable and high emotional states. And I love that world, helping people work through their challenges in a holistic and empowering way, teaching them, offering them education. I saw that opportunity inside of finance to bring those skills into this world, making more space for the emotional side of money, because money is very emotional and it can also be numerically driven. So for me, I'm very, half right brain, half left brain. And I saw an opportunity in finance to exercise my left brain again and work on that analytical side, work through the numbers, do that kind of research, planning, organization, another one of my strengths, but then combine it with my background in social, emotional, and behavioral care and really create a practice that is truly holistic, honors the whole human. And so then, especially when it comes to people who are going through challenge, going through transition, what better place to be practicing that kind of care and support while also supporting people from a tactical and a functional perspective. Right. So that's a little bit of who I am and how I got here.
Well, and that to me, when I hear your background and where you come from, your place, I think, oh my gosh, that is so opposite of finance, right?
Yeah.
The opposite side of the brain. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, and then there's this thing called divorce. That is so emotional.
Yeah.
And we often talk about handling the emotions and getting that all in check, working through all that before you even focus on the business of divorce.
Yeah.
Where you understand all of that and you handhold through that. So there's 2 questions here. Number 1, because you illustrate this beautifully. What's the difference between a financial planner and a financial advisor? Yes. And then with that background, we've talked about divorce often and the hand-holding. Talk about that and how you apply yoga the yogi in you, right? I mean, that's all I keep thinking about is, this movement. And I'm looking at your LinkedIn and I see the rainbow, and you don't normally see that stuff associated with a financial planner.
Yes.
Talk to me how you incorporate this. Walk me through a situation.
Yeah, awesome. So to answer your first question, the difference between a financial advisor and a financial planner. So think of it this way. All financial planners are financial advisors. Not all financial advisors are financial planners. So let me break that down for a second. As a financial planner, I am a financial advisor through my licensing. And what that really means is I'm looking at your investment accounts. I'm offering you investment advice. I might be managing those investments. But as a financial planner, I'm also looking at all of the other areas of your life that are not just investments. So we're also looking at insurance planning, tax planning, estate planning, right? The whole picture of finance, the planning aspect. As a financial advisor, there tends to be more of a focus on just that investment management. That's what that's referring to. The advice is the advising on investments. So not all financial advisors may have that holistic perspective as a planner might. You can really see that exemplified in certified financial planners, CFPs. That indicates that they are usually taking a more broad look at how they're planning. They're not just siloing their advice in the investment world. They're looking at everything. So hopefully that clears that up.
Yes. And so now apply your background to the divorce situation and how you now say, okay, I got to work both sides of my brain.
Yeah.
The person in transition.
Yeah. So for me, it has to start on the human level. I think we have to prioritize, especially when we're dealing with divorce. I need to know who that person is, not just as it relates to their divorce, but then also how they're navigating the divorce itself. So I want to know who they are. I need to, and whether they're like, I start on this place with all of my clients, regardless of the situation they're going through. I spend a lot of time uncovering who that person is, right? What brings you energy in your life? What areas of your life do you protect the most? What kind of a legacy do you want to leave? What's something that you love to do that you don't do anymore? I want to know who you are as a human and what gives you life. And then I want to know what your values are. I take all of my clients through a values exercise, which sometimes it's revealing for them to go through that too, to prioritize what is really important to you. We whittle it down to 5. It's such a fun exercise. And then we talk about them, right? What is that? What do they mean? What does that look like in your life? Do you feel like you're living that value? I think we have to start there because that's the core, or we can think of it as the North Star. Like the North Star is our values and ultimately our goals, right? What are we going for in life? That's where we always have to come back to when it comes to the planning. Then when we're working with people who are going through transition, divorce, challenge, we need to spend time talking about it. Tell me your story. What's going on for you? How are you feeling? I am not afraid to just talk about the feelings. I've had people in the financial industry in the past where they try and train me to not talk about feelings. They're like, no, say thinking. What are you thinking about? And I'm like, no, but I want to know how they're feeling. So I want to create enough space for my clients to feel safe enough to talk about it. It takes time, right? It's a vulnerable place to go. It's emotional. So I think just letting people know that I try to be really explicit, that it's okay to talk about that here. I want to know, and it's going to help me then create that much better of a plan for you. Because if I know the emotional state you're in, if I can uncover some of your emotional relationship with money, regardless of the situation we're currently in, then I can take that behavior and emotional response into account when I'm thinking about building an actual plan for you, right? So we start on that emotional level, and then it informs the tactical side of the plan. And then that obviously is, you know, specific to the individual. But I really do think the human has to be what we start with.
You hit on a key point, active listening. And active listening in the story. One of the things that I find is they come to me, and especially in a woman's case, you know, we often talk about the emotion that's tied to the home and the Christmas tree that's always in that window, right? And we've got to keep it like this for the kids, and et cetera, et cetera. But you get the whole story. And while you're listening to the whole story, you've got to have your iPad or your notepad close by, because you're going to get one little bit of information, you know, 15 minutes from now that's going to help you structure the deal. And it's very, very difficult, but you have to structure a win for them. You have to structure what they feel is a good deal. Okay, this is how I get to save my home. This is how I get to have cash flow, or whatever the situation is. But there's such an emotional story to that. And it's so interesting because it is very opposite of our work world, right? Because it's just money. It's dollars and cents, and figure out and how to apply guidelines and compliance to the situation. There's no emotion in that. Presentation is the presentation. Now, as I'm listening to you, I'm going, wow, this is just so amazing, because when we first met, what intrigued me most is, how do you get paid? When you answer that question, I want people to hear your philosophy on this, because this is really interesting to me.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll explain it by the three. I'll give the listeners the perspective on how all advisors get paid. There's really three primary ways, and then I'll tell you where I fall. So there's three primary ways that advisors or planners get paid. The first is commissions on selling products. Usually they're an agent of some kind associated with a broker or an insurance company. So they're selling different insurance products, annuities. That's the bulk of it. And then they're getting a commission on that sale whenever they place it. I started in the insurance world. I understand how that works. The second way, and the most popular way advisors get paid, is typically a percentage of the assets that they're managing. So you start working with a client, they take some or all of your assets under their management, and then they charge you a fee. 1% is average for the industry, maybe a little more, a little less. And then they're just charging that ongoing fee. And what comes with that will depend on the advisor. Sometimes they'll do a one-time plan for you. Sometimes they won't. I mean, that will be different for every advisor, kind of what you're getting for that 1% fee. And then there's the small segment of us that work on a flat fee model. So that's where I land, the majority of my business. So I work with people on a flat fee scale, which means once I get an understanding of their financial picture, I set a flat quarterly rate for them that they pay me. It's a cash flow charge. So it's not coming out of their assets. It's coming out of, most people use their credit cards for it, get the points. And then that's it. So it's a very transparent way of working that allows me and the client to know exactly how I'm getting paid, when I'm getting paid, and that it's not tied to any product that I'm pushing. It's not tied to the timeline that my clients need to make a decision. It's not tied to their decisions, right? This allows me to really prioritize advice. I'm giving you advice based on your entire picture in the most objective way that I can, that I feel is in your best interest. And for the consumers, the clients, they know that there's no ulterior motive behind my advice, because they know that I'm not getting some sort of commission or sale on what I'm telling them. They know it's just advice. As far as then implementing that advice, I give them options. I can be flexible in how I work with them beyond that. But, and I think this is just from having spent so long in the trauma space, but choice is everything. Helping people making them feel empowered and in giving them the information that they need to make an informed decision. That's what I'm trying to do. And then I'm going to let them choose how they want to implement it. If they want me to help them implement it, okay, I can, and we'll be really upfront about what that means. Like I can manage their assets, and I do manage assets for some of my clients. And so there's a way to work that with my flat fee clients so that it's not, so that it's still all above the line. So there, we can talk about that as it happens. But yeah, I really am passionate about the flat fee model. It's still a very small segment of advisors, but I like it because it really prioritizes transparency. It also allows me to work with people without an asset minimum. So people can come to me at any level where they are with their assets, as long as they have the cash flow to support the fee, of course. The goal of our work together would be to build those assets then over time. Right. It also eliminates minimums, which I also really like.
Well, and that's just it. There's so many financial advisors that say, oh yeah, to work with me, minimum investment is 250,000, 500,000, whatever number they put on their requirement.
Yeah.
And then you hear I represent ABC company or DEF. And so, that's the product that you're going to be housed under. That's the product, your investment. You already know your investment strategy before you even walk in the door. It's a matter, in my opinion, for them now to place you in the correct box. But you already know the basic strategy behind it. We talk about the importance of all of us on the divorce team. And I see exactly what you're talking about. You look at the big picture, you look at all of it. And the flat fee method often works very well in a divorce situation.
Yeah.
Because the cash flow is negative when they first start with you, right? Oftentimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. However, there's another group of individuals, and I want to highlight this because our listeners are listening to the Divorce Literacy Podcast, but there's a completely different segment of people that you work with that we know, based off of what's in the news today, they're in transition as well. Share.
Yes, I think you're talking about our dear actors who are still on strike. Yes. So as coming from the entertainment industry for so long, a big segment of my clientele are entertainers, working artists, creative professionals, and entrepreneurs. I also work with some service-based entrepreneurs, therapists, coaches, also great partners in this space. But yeah, I work with our entertainers. Our actors are still on strike. We saw the writers' strike go on longer than it has in decades. There's a lot of emotional support needed within that community, whether, right now is an especially volatile time, but even when it's not, there's a lot of emotional complexity for our working creatives and artists in the world, that there's a lot of crossover between people who are going through transition, people who are working in that space. I mean, their career, if you think about it, it's always in transition, right? There's no steadiness to it. And that's one of the things I love about working with them, because I have lived that world for 15 years. Like I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, or like working on my own, just building my own career up as an actor and a performer. So I understand that life firsthand, both from the functional side of the finances and the ups and downs and how to plan for that when you can't really plan. But then also from the emotional side too, and it can get complex sometimes.
Well, so the volatility with the income, which is very much synonymous to divorce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Income is maybe so volatile, not always, but maybe so volatile.
Yeah.
Until some stability is created.
Right.
How do you serve that?
Yeah.
What plans? I want to hear nuts and bolts, because in my opinion, I've heard over the years, my whole career, steady Eddie, That's the person that's going to win. Always be saving and put a little bit every single month. Well,
Yeah.
if I don't make income in a particular month,
Yeah.
or if my income now is completely changed and I no longer have the spouse bringing in that kind of money and I have to now manage my own budget,
Yeah.
how do you implement some sort of a strategy there?
Yeah, I basically flip the normal advice on its head. So most advice when it comes to budgeting or planning starts from the perspective of income and then basing it off of your income and your expenses. How much do you have left over every month? And then that's kind of where we're going to start.
Okay.
I basically flip that order and we have to reverse engineer. So what I recommend is starting with expenses. We have to get an understanding of budget. And if you're in transition, whether it's like a divorce or you're just in a volatile lifestyle, I like to think of expenses in like 2 to 3 tiers. So you want to think about like basic living expenses, just the basics. What do you need on a basic level? Your, rent or mortgage, your bills and utilities, your insurances, the things that you cannot get around, even food and gas. I know those numbers fluctuate from month to month, but take an average, overestimate. So get an understanding of the most basic lifestyle that you can live and just know what that like critical number is, I'd say. Then add on the comforts that you would like to have. Maybe don't go all the way to rich dream life quite yet. I like think of this middle tier as like, this is what my life is when it's moderate and it's comfortable. And, I can go out here and there and have fun here and there. It's not crazy extravagant, but also know what that number is. And then if you want to, you can also like dream of like, here's my goals or my target for, this is me living my ultimate best life, so you can kind of have 2 to 3 tiers, understand what those numbers are, and then just have that awareness first. Then we basically need to work backwards. So we say, okay, I know this is how much I need to live on every month, let's say at the comfortable level. Then we get to when we start looking at averages, right? Because if the income isn't steady from month to month, then let's look at your last 2 to 3 years of work and see if we can get an average number for your yearly income, know how much you're bringing in overall. And then we can start to compare between, all right, here's how much I tend to bring in a year. Here's how much I need to live every month. And then I like to recommend people create an overflow account. So when they're getting paid, they can put it into an overflow account. They pay themselves what they know they need to live every month, but they don't take more than that. Then in the months that you're making more, that overflow account gets bolstered up a little bit, but you're not taking more than what you really need. Then in the leaner months, when you're not bringing in income, you get to go into that overflow pot and start taking what you do need because you have made it. It's just not going to be steady all the time.
Right.
And I'd like to keep that overflow account separate. Like that's not emergency savings, right? Emergency savings can be segmented somewhere else for emergencies. Like, oh, I haven't worked in 6 months. This is not normal. Or, a house repair that comes up, some sort of big bill, medical expenses, true emergencies. Keep that separate. Just have a designated overflow account. And then, you can kind of balance it. And then also I like to work when it comes to savings and investments. If monthly is too hard, look at it quarterly, right? Look at the end of every quarter, the beginning of every quarter, look back and say, okay, here's what that evened out for the last 3 months. Now I'm going to make a quarterly contribution to my retirement account or my investment account or my savings so that you don't have to deal with the more of the minutia of the ups and downs on a month-to-month level.
And the angst.
Yeah.
The monthly angst. Oh my gosh. Because
looking at it all the time.
A bill.
Yeah.
And you can't function that way. It's not pleasant. And I got to tell you, this is exactly why I asked that question, because this is where you're unique. Most in your arena don't talk like this. They talk about, okay, we got to figure out this is the end goal. This is how much it's going to take. Let's put you on a plan.
Yeah.
It's great for someone who has a check coming in every single month, right?
Right.
It's beautiful on paper. It really
Beautiful on paper. If only it were true.
is. Exactly. And so we've had fun sharing stories. I dare I call them horror stories. What's that one unique story? That one unique situation that you're allowed to share without, breaching compliance that really shows made you really happy, really shows what you do, and just really grabbed at your heart.
Well, the first one that comes to mind, so I also do some coaching besides my planning practice. I also offer financial coaching that focuses more on the mindset, the behavior, and some of that, like the budgeting, the savings, the debt, the more foundational aspects. And so that there's a story coming up from that side of the business for me, where she came to me. She's a working artist, but struggles because she used to have, she worked for the CIA and on the defense, and was making way more money, steady paycheck, benefits, all the things. And she's like, my spending is still like I was making that much, and now it's fluctuating, and I don't know. And so she was coming to me because she was having trouble with the fluctuating income, some debt, and things like that. What was interesting in that approach was having just like the first conversation we had, we realized that what was actually contributing to some of her spending issues was coming from a lack of personal boundaries. So it wasn't even about the numbers. And this is why I'm so passionate on making space for the behavioral and the emotional in the conversation, because it's like, once we understood more of the fabric that really made up her life, it was like, okay, you're spending money as a way of showing someone that you love them, but you don't actually have that money to spend right now.
Right.
And then the conversation developed into her realizing, like, I have a lack of boundaries, and that became a huge aha for her. So then it's like, we got that piece underway, and we've got some like tactical things that we're working through, right? Where it's like, okay, next time we meet, we're going to look through your credit card spending statements, and we're going to look at them from a values perspective. So it's not just about the numbers, but it's like, let's look at your spending and look at every line item. Was it either like a necessity that you can't get around, or is it something that aligns with your values and brings you joy and actual value into your life? And if not, let's see where we can cut it. So again, I'm proud of running a practice that is more non-traditional in that way, where it's not just, well, let's just cut the numbers, and it's not just the numbers.
I don't want to go live in my mom's garage.
Yeah. And it's so much more effective when we can get to the root of what's really going on behind the numbers.
Yes.
And then the numbers tend to fall in line a little bit more easily. And so, she's on her way and then you see what's lovely about that really gets my heart pumping is, seeing the light bulb go off in her, and then that motivation, right? Now she's motivated. They see the progress, they see the hope, they see the light.
Yes.
That it's possible to make changes without compromising their lifestyle or compromising, their well-being. It's in fact increasing those things in a lot of ways. And we can find ways to smooth out the monthly budget and numbers, and like find some room for you to be saving and contributing toward the debt. Like it's a domino effect. But again, I believe the root really begins at that emotional and behavioral level. And then the rest of the dominoes tend to fall in line a lot easier.
This comes together.
Yeah.
Now, those people that are in transition and they're hearing this going, oh my gosh, she's the girl for me. Like, I need to talk to her. Where are you located?
So I'm based out of Denver, Colorado, but
Okay.
I work across the country. In fact, the majority of my clients are not in Colorado. So most of my practice is a lot of virtual relationships.
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. So that's just it. They're not having to make an appointment to go to a storefront.
No.
and sit in your lobby and wait their turn. No, it's
No.
basically a Zoom. Let's get together.
Yeah, via Zoom. I do, if I'm traveling and I'm going to a place where I have clients, I try and let them know because I do think it's fun to meet up with them. But usually that's on more of a social call and like, let's go grab a meal or have a drink together, a beverage. Rather than like, let's have a meeting in person. It's like, no, let's just connect in person because we
The
can.
human behind the Brady Bunch screen.
Exactly.
People
Yeah.
poke you on the shoulder and go, "You're real."
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, where can they find you? Tell us. I mean, social media, online, tell us where.
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. I post and I'm active on my messages. So you can find me, Allie Beckmann. Beckmann is spelled with 2 N's, Beckmann. So LinkedIn is a great place to find me. My website is beckmannfinancial.com. Those are it. You can
Look for the
reach out to me
rainbow, everybody.
through the website. Yeah, my LinkedIn page has the rainbow behind it. So that's how you know it's me, a very inclusive practice. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, you
Fantastic.
can reach out to me through LinkedIn or the website would be a great way to connect.
If there's one bit of information that you'd like to share before saying goodbye, what would that little nugget or bit of advice that you would like to share? What would that be?
I think for me, it would be to trust your gut when you're looking for professionals. We can get into the weeds of the functional side of finances when you're going through transition. There's plenty of nuts and bolts to think about. You can also research a lot of that online. It's not that hard. I think what's more important is, again, starting from the place that we talked about today. When you're choosing the professionals that you're working with, you got to feel safe. You need to be able to trust them or feel like you are building trust. Might not happen right away. That's okay.
Right.
But you need to feel safe. And so trust how you feel, trust your gut, trust your instinct, trust what your body is telling you when you sit down and meet with someone. Know that you don't have to work with the first person you talk to and that you get to choose who is going to be on your team. This is a challenging time where you need to be held from multiple angles. So when you're choosing those professionals, your financial advisor, your mortgage lender, your real estate person, even a therapist, your lawyer, make sure that you feel safe with them so that you can have these candid conversations. You can tell them everything that they need to know, and then you can really receive the support that you're looking for because you feel safe and open and can connect. So I'd say start there.
Wonderfully, wonderfully said. And we're not closed. Here we are on the Divorce Literacy Podcast talking about the negative. We're not closed off to that. There's people just getting started. There's people getting ready to retire that maybe they need to change their plan.
Yeah.
Any life transition, it could be, oh my gosh, now I'm a new parent.
Yeah.
Now things change. Oh, I'm a new homeowner, whatever. That's a transition in your life. And maybe you need a new perspective.
New job.
Now we have light at the end of the tunnel with Miss Allie Beckmann. Fantastic. I am so grateful for your time today. I thank you so very, very much because your perspective is so unique. And I knew this is exactly why I wanted you on the show, because you're really going to help a whole heck of a lot of people. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. This has been such a pleasure.
Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.
You too.